welcome. Well, we are finally here. I have finally viewed all the movies I think I'm going to get to for the year that was, and now it is time to take the 71 odd films that I have seen, jumble them all around, and try to organize them into some kind of comprehensive list to take a look at what was the best, the worst, and the kind of in-between of the year that was. And as I like to start negative and build towards the positive, we are going to start out taking a look at the 10 worst films of 2022. So let's not beat around the bush. Let's just jump right in. Here we go.
Listen to that video crowd. They hate you.
Number 10. The Fabelmans. Hey, here's one I bet you didn't know. Were you aware that Steven Spielberg still has unresolved mommy and daddy issues dating back to his parents' divorce during his formative years? Well, if you didn't, here is a glossy, spit-shined, and incredibly dull film detailing it in excruciating time. This film was such a letdown, not because it covers material that we have already seen done before, but because when it's coming from one of the most celebrated filmmakers of all time, you expect a little bit more. Unfortunately, we just got a watered-down Stand By Me. Number 9. The Contractor and All the Old Knives. Yeah, that's right. There are going to be a lot of ties on this year's lists, and what better way to start us out than with a Chris Pine back-to-back snore fest. Woohoo! Let's all jump on the bland wagon. I certainly can't figure out which one of these films was more boring and tedious to watch, so what the hell? Let's do both of them. Haven't heard of either one of them? There's a reason. Number 8. Dead for a Dollar. It is absolutely criminal that you could have this much talent and this many bona fide stars and brilliant actors all sharing the screen, and you turn out a product this flat, ugly, and boring. How do you screw this up? Number 7. Firestarter. Here's another one I bet you don't remember. You might be noticing that a lot of these early entrants, there's not a lot I'm saying because there's not a lot to say. They were deadly dull and boring, and what lands them on this list is that in a lot of cases they had no right to be. A remake of a Stephen King classic about a little girl with the ability to start fires with her mind. How do you make that so utterly uninteresting and unwatchable? It takes a certain type of talent to do that. Poor Zac Efron is trying to prove that he's more than just a Disney pretty boy, but he picked the wrong film to try to do that with. Number 6. Uncharted. Yeah, now we're getting into the dregs. Now we're getting into the ones that everybody has heard about. And even so, what more is there for me to say about this movie that hasn't already been said, other than continuing the horrifying tradition of video games just not translating well to film? Tom Holland is so woefully miscast in this role. I know that he is trying his best to break out of the Spider-Man mold, but this was the wrong film to do that in. And yes, does this sound exactly like the review I just gave for Firestarter? Well, if the movie isn't going to try to be interesting and original, why the hell should I put in the time? Number 5. Fall. Yeah, the adventures of Becky Bad Idea and Hunter Hurts Everyone just couldn't help but land right on this list. This film does have a few saving graces. It's fairly well directed, and it tries to do something interesting with its setup. But the problem is that it's so impossible to care about two fucking idiots who landed themselves in this situation, and all of it could have been avoided if they just listened to basic common sense. Yeah, so it's hard to watch a movie like this when you're kind of rooting for the characters to fail. Number 4, Moonfall. Okay, look, I have no objection to sometimes a film just being stupid fun. We need that. And I also acknowledge that I am in with that group of people that tend to nitpick things, looking for logic and sense in a situation where those rules don't apply. I am an unapologetic fan of the original Independence Day and the hurricane heist. So I get it that sometimes you just want a film to be stupid, goofy, popcorn fun. But for God's sakes, there is a fucking limit. This film goes beyond being just stupid popcorn fun to just being plain stupid. Not only is it just one of the most incomprehensible plots and stories that you have ever heard, it wastes one of the rising stars of film, John Bradley, who did a great job this year trying to extend his filmography past Game of Thrones, but this was a big pitfall for him. And for everyone else in the cast, it's not like they had much going on either. And for God's sakes, can the makers of Independence Day get over this thing about the evil or stupid or unacceptable stepdad? It's really, really getting old at this point. Number 3, Morbius. I think this film almost deserves to be taken off this list, if for no other reason than it has the distinction of being one of the only movies to bomb at the box office twice. After its initial release and poor reception, the studio tried to re-release it and it bombed again. And is there any reason not to? This film would have fit perfectly in with the early 2000s rage of superhero movies, in with things like Daredevil and Ghost Rider. But in the modern era, there is no excuse for it coming out this pathetic. The only saving grace is, of course, the performance of Matt Smith, who's awesome in everything he's in, but even he could not save Jared Leto giving one of the dullest, most uninteresting performances in any superhero this side of steel. And they're gonna try this shit again with Craven the Hunter. Really? Have we not learned our lesson? Just give it up, Sony. Okay? Stick with the Across the Spider-Verse films. At least those have some fan support and some quality control. These things, just give up on this Sinister Six cinematic universe. It's not going to work. Please stop. Number 2, Jurassic World Domination. This one not only hurts, but this one feels personal. The original Jurassic Park is one of my all-time favorite movies. I think it is one of the most important films to ever be released, and the tidal wave of what came after it has just been an increasingly disappointing slog. I can enjoy Jurassic World or Jurassic Lost World and Jurassic Park 3 on kind of a so bad they're kind of enjoyable level. I can also kind of get there with the original Jurassic World, but they have been on a sliding slope, and they end up with this pathetic entry. that not only gets so far away from any of the interesting possibilities set up by its own uninteresting sequel, but they drag its legacy characters back in, because that's what you do with films like now, to putter around and look completely lost. I gotta give Jeff Goldblum a little bit of credit. He's trying, but at least he's given a few funny lines to work with. Poor Sam Neill could not look more lost and uninterested if he tried. There has never been a better "where is my paycheck" look on someone's face than on his throughout this entire movie. And don't even get me started on the story itself, which is, as already stated, boring, stupid, nonsensical, idiotic, and just downright repugnant. This was a slog and a pain to get through, and it deserves to go extinct, if for no other reason than the tarnish it leaves on a once proud film. And the worst movie of 2022 is Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. I'm going to put aside, as best I can, my personal distaste for the comments made by the creative forces behind this film. We're going to try to look at this solely without any outside interference and just look at it as a film, and a film within its own franchise. And in both those cases, it shits the bed. The Fantastic Beasts experiment has been one of the most ill-fitting and ill-fated ones in the history of cinema. Taking a beloved series like Harry Potter and trying to expand it is not the worst thing. But when you come up with this group of uninteresting, nonsensical plot turns, multiple stories about governmental politics of a world we don't quite get the inner workings of, or have never been exposed to the inner workings of prior, a bunch of forgettable characters, half of whom I could not, for the life of me, even remember the actors' names, let alone the characters, and taking some of the only two interesting characters in the whole thing and making them completely superfluous and idiotic. And then you throw in some plot about a magical deer that's supposed to pick the leader. Look, I understand that due to the poor reception and the understandable and justifiable backlash against the wizarding world, that they decided to condense what was supposed to be a 7-film run into 3. I get that. And I'm torn, because there's parts of me that look at this film and say that injection really shows. It is so hobbled together and so rushing towards the finish, you feel like you've missed 27 different plot points that were supposed to be expanded upon in previous films. So I get that that is part of its problem, but the other side of it is I didn't want to sit through any more of these goddamn things. So it's kind of a mixed blessing. Either way, the end product is just like the predecessor on this list. It is a stain on its franchise that, quite frankly, doesn't need any more stains on it at this particular time. So, for all those reasons and more, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore is my worst film of 2022. But wait, we're not quite done yet, because I have one more honorable mention. Honorable mention: Love in Tyranny. Didn't think I was going to let that go, did ya? So, a little history. First of all, you may have noticed, as I've said, that this review and a lot of these recaps were very short, much shorter than in previous years. And part of that is me just trying to be a little bit more succinct with these wrap-up reviews, but also because I needed a little extra time to talk about this film. So, I watched this film this year, I reviewed it, and suffice to say, I did not care for it for a variety of reasons, and I was just willing to let it go at that. I thought maybe it might end up on this list, but in all honesty, it was too dull and innocuous of a film to really garner much hatred past its original viewing, and I was more than willing to just kind of let it go at that. But it turns out a lot of other people weren't. This has to be one of the most watched reviews and commented on reviews I have ever done, and for all of the wrong reasons. I got so much hate for my review of this movie. So many people jumping on and criticizing my review, criticizing me, criticizing my critical techniques or abilities, and man, there was for a time a point where I was going to make this the #1 worst movie of the year just out of spite, but I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. But I did want to address a few things. Now, I don't recall every single one of the comments. I delete them. You know, I tend to delete negative comments. I'm doing this for fun, so I don't need, hate clouding up my comments section. But I do read the comments, and I gave them some thought. And I do have to admit that some of the responses aimed at me are not without their merit. Again, summarizing here a little bit, but some of them made some points that I was a little overly harsh and perhaps did not give the film as much of a chance as I could have. And after going back and rewatching the review, I must admit that that is an adequate comment. I got the comment that I repeat myself a lot, and that is true. That is something I have a lot of issue with. One of the drawbacks, and I've mentioned this before, of the format in which I choose to review, off the cuff, immediate, or as close to immediate responses as I can get, does mean that, one, I'm working unscripted, so therefore I do tend to repeat points or repeat terms and whatnot, as I've done several times here, and that can get a little irritating. It can also mean that you are sometimes getting just pure, raw emotion that I am feeling at the time I have viewed this film. And at the time I viewed this film, it royally pissed me off. Now, was that reaction really worthy of the film? Did it deserve that? Honestly, no. I don't think it did. I think that was me just reacting, and and I'm not going to deny this, but that's also part of the on-screen character that I'm bringing to this. Sometimes when something really makes me mad, I go off on it because that's what people expect critics to do. So I'm not too proud to admit that, yes, I chase the clicks. I don't get a lot of them. So yeah, I try to go a little bit over the top in order to score some views. Underhanded and not very professional, yes, I will admit that. So those critiques and those criticisms, I will acknowledge and say, you're right, and I'm trying to do better. So thank you for that input. Other comments were not as helpful. One person criticized the film crew, whom you notice are not here now because I've just moved, so they're not in the car with me. I notice every time someone wants to belittle me as a critic, they always point out the stuffed animals. They always point those out as if the presence of the stuffed animals somehow minimizes my legit criticism. One guy criticized the way I run my hand through my hair, which again, I do a lot, but I don't see how that negates anything that I said. So yeah, some of them got a little personal. One person said that he probably was never going to watch the movie, but he definitely didn't like this review. It's like, then how the fuck do you know if I'm wrong? But nevertheless, I'm not going to sit here and respond to every single criticism. I'm here to make two statements. Number one, alongside, well, three, I guess, technically. So I've already made the statement that some of the criticism that I received is well spotted and well heated, if not well phrased. But anyway, but I think the first thing I want to say is I stand by my review. Maybe not in the way I presented it, but after rewatching the film, yes, I went back and rewatched it along with the review. I feel like all the points I made were valid. And therefore, I stand by what I said. Okay? And so that's number one. I also have to say that it does kind of give me a little bit of hope and a little bit of joy that so many people leapt to the defense of this film. You know, because oftentimes these flame wars and these discussions are all based around, you know, larger films. People arguing about Thor or the latest Disney film or, you know, the Warner Brothers Batman movies or the Snyder Cut or whatever. You know, these are multi-billion-dollar films. And they don't need anyone defending them because they don't care. All right, so it did kind of make me feel, in a weird way, kind of good that so many people leapt to the defense of this particular film and this director. You know, I like to see that. That's a good thing. It means people had strong feelings about this movie. I do think it was a little bizarre that so many of them seemed to think I had something personal against the director and that I was somehow jealous of him and what he had accomplished, especially since I went to great pains in the review to make the statement that I respected the writer-director star's ability to have a project, believe in a project, and get that project done. So I don't see where the criticism of me just hating the guy, and, you know, furthermore on that, folks, like, this guy got a film made. He got a film of a play he wrote made. Do you really think he is sitting there worried about what I think? A guy whose only film credit is a student film he directed for the high school he worked at and posted on YouTube? You really think he's sitting there going, oh, he didn't like my movie? Well, we know if the next play or movie this guy does has a character who's a fat, hairy film critic lambasting something, we know where he got the inspiration. But anyway, I got off track. There is one other point I wish to make. All right? And that is this. If you like this film, and it seems like a lot of people did, if you liked this film, then more power to you. I'm glad. If this is your new favorite movie, then I am so happy that it spoke to you. I am so happy that it connected with you. If you want to, you know, do your Love and Kearney fan fiction and draw your Love and Kearney fan art and post it on DeviantArt, if you want to dress up as your favorite character and go to KearneyCon 23, where you and the other Love and Kearney fans reenact your favorite scenes, then more power to you. Okay? What I say, in my opinion, should have no bearing on your enjoyment of the film. But while you're doing all that, I want you to keep one thing in mind. Just one thing. Yes, I had negative things to say about this movie. And yes, I said them in a maybe somewhat disrespectful way. Fair enough. But you know what, folks? At least I had something to say about this movie. Think about this for a moment, Love and Tyranny fans, while you're preparing your next cosplay. How many film critics, amateur and professional, can you find on social media these days? Take a wild guess. Hundreds, thousands. There are so many of us. From the people who monetize and do it for a living, to the people like myself who do it for fun and as a stress reliever. Regardless, there are so many of us out there. Now, here's a better question. Of all the film critics out there, how many of them reviewed this movie? Go ahead, pause this video, go into the search bar and type in Love and Tyranny review and see how many pop up. How many? As of the day I'm recording this video, 2. 2 people took the time to review this movie. And for 3 months, you know who the only one was? Me. That's right. You may not like what I had to say. And yes, again, I may have been able to find more eloquent ways of saying it. But the simple fact of the matter is that for a very long time, and even now, I am one of the only people, one of only 2 people that gave this film my time, my attention, my money, and yes, the benefit of my expertise. And I do use the word expertise. I do not throw my credentials around. But just so we have a framework for this discussion, let me just reiterate here for a second. I have a bachelor's degree in theater with honors. I have a master's degree in theater. I am a produced playwright. I am an award-winning actor, director, and playwright. I am not just some schlub watching a film and going, oh, that sucks. I understand script analysis, character analysis, story structure. And yes, while my focus is theater, I do understand the basics of filmmaking as well. I know from whence I speak, and I gave this film an honest review whether you liked it or not. So go ahead and enjoy this film if it's your favorite thing. Please, by all means, do so and have a great time. And badmouth me if you feel like I did your little film dirty. Go ahead. That's fine and dandy. Defend it. Defend the thing you love. I applaud that. But don't forget that while you're doing that I, for the longest time, was the only voice talking about this movie at all. I wager a lot of you probably found out about this film because of me. That's ego, bitch. So, there you have it. That is I have been waiting so long to say all this. I have been waiting so damn long. So now I've gotten it off my chest, and that is the last I intend to discuss it. So, there you have it. Those are my worst films of 2022. Sorry, I got enraged, and spit got caught in my throat. So, now that is done, we're going to start moving towards more pleasant things. But before we get to the best, we have to look at the rest. So when next we meet, we will take a look at the top 10 meh films of 2022. So, until next time, thank you for joining me, and as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.